It's movie time, and today we're watching the 2012 adaptation of the beloved comic character Judge Dredd. At 96 minutes, it has the same run length as Judge Dredd 1995, which shows that you can always do more with less. They don't waste any time with nuance or emotional depth because it's too busy kicking ass and taking names. If you want a film that delivers the good without all the fluff, then here's your ticket. Let's dive into it. Set in the dystopian Megacity 1, we follow our stoic protagonist, Judge Dredd, played by Carl Urban. This guy is as uncompromising as the tax collector on April 15th, and I love him for it. Dredd isn't here to make friends. He's here to dispense justice, usually with a side of brutal fucking violence. From the get-go, this film establishes its tone. Gritty, violent, and utterly unapologetic. Dredd isn't just a judge, he's an army of one, and while he's doing his thing, we get to meet his rookie partner, Anderson, played by Olivia Thirlby. Now here's the interesting thing. Anderson brings a psychic element to the story, which could have been a total disaster. Instead, it adds depth without overshadowing Dredd's no-nonsense attitude. So you got the seasoned badass and the idealistic rookie, a classic trope that works. Their chemistry keep things engaging, even when the plot isn't exactly Shakespeare. Then you got the big bad of the movie at the top of her tower, Mama, played by Lena Headey. She's the kind of villain you love to hate. Ruthless, calculating, and not afraid to get her hands dirty. The film clearly makes her a formidable opponent, raising the stakes. Dredd's mission to take her down isn't just a stroll through the park, it's a fight for survival, and it's fucking intense. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the action. And my god is it beautiful. The slow motion effects? Mwah! Chef's kiss. They're used sparingly and effectively, making every violent moment feel impactful. You're not just watching Dredd blow shit up, you're experiencing it. It's visceral, it's brutal, and it's exactly what you signed up for. But it's not just about the violence. The film explores themes of justice and morality. Dredd is a judge, jury, and executioner, raising the question, can one man truly dispense justice? But let's be real here. If you came here for a deep philosophical musing, you might be in the wrong place. This is Dredd after all, not a TED Talk. Let's talk about some of the main players in this brutal ballet of violence, shall we? First up, we got the man himself, Judge Dredd. Unlike previous Judge Dredd movies, the helmet will never come off in this movie, keeping true to the comic book character. Also, this guy doesn't smile, doesn't crack jokes, and he sure as hell doesn't have time for your bullshit. He's the ultimate lawman in a city gone completely to hell. His mantra? I am the law. Nah, that doesn't do it justice. Here.
I am the law.
Ooh, goosebumps. He is a relentless law enforcer for justice, and if you cross him, you better be ready for a world of pain and some serious kick-assing. And then, opposite to him, but in a good way, we've got Anderson. She's the rookie with psychic powers, and while Dredd is cold and effective, Anderson brings a touch of humanity to the table. Dredd only refers to Anderson by her name 3 times. The rest of the time, he just calls her Rookie. She got ideals, empathy, and isn't afraid to challenge Dredd's black and white views of justice. Watching their dynamic unfold is the highlight of the film. It adds a much-needed heart amidst the carnage and chaos. A movie isn't a good movie without a villain, and holy shit, what a villain. She's ruthless, cunning, and doesn't hesitate to do whatever the hell it takes to keep her iron grip of power. Fun fact, some of Mama's tattoos are Lena Headey's actual tattoos, most notably the flower on her upper right arm. The makeup artist took the design and expanded it to her neck and face. But Mama isn't just some random thug, she's a calculating mastermind with a chilling presence. In Mama's penthouse, there's a judge's helmet hanging on her wall with a length of gold chain attached to it. A nod to the comic design of Judge Dredd, where the gold chain would link to a badge on the uniform's collar, showing she isn't afraid of the judge or the law. Watching Dredd go up against her is like watching a lion hunt a particularly nasty zebra, and it's fucking glorious. We also got some other supporting characters like various gang members and judges populating Megacity 1. They add to the chaos, making the world feel alive and dangerous. Each of them, while not deeply developed, contribute to the overall tension and stakes of this high-octane showdown. Also, it gives Dredd someone to take out his frustrations on and serve some much-needed justice to. In Dredd, the world building is on point. It perfectly captures the grim dystopia vibe of Megacity 1. First off, Megacity 1 is a sprawling, overcrowded nightmare of a city that looks like it was designed by someone that really hates humanity. The towering skyscrapers are crammed together like sardines in a can, and the streets are filled with garbage and chaos. It's a hellhole, and it's exactly how it should feel. Inside the judge's precinct, it's all about function over form, which reflects the brutal reality of their job. You get a sense that this isn't a place for warmth or comfort. It's where decisions are made that could lead to life and death in a heartbeat. It's cold, it's clinical, and it matches Dredd's personality perfect. Then we set the stage for Dredd's version of the Game of Death, the Peachtree Block. This place is a towering, crime infested hellhole that looks like it hasn't seen a decent cleaning in decades. In the classroom in Peachtrees, as well as the mall, the new American flag can be seen. It only has 6 stars representing the mega states. The drab interior, the flickering lights, the oppressive atmosphere makes it feel like there's a death trap at every turn. It's gritty and claustrophobic, heightening the tension as Dredd and Anderson navigate the labyrinth of violence. The color palette is drenched in a grimly yellow and dark grays, which perfectly sets the tone. The slow motion shots, especially during the action sequences, contrast the dark environment, making the violence feel even more impactful. Fun fact, the slow motion sound effects is based on Justin Bieber songs that are slowed down to 1/800th of its normal speed. So is Dredd a masterpiece? Nah, but it's an incredibly fun ride, knows exactly what it is. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than a gritty action film, and it nails that aspect with confidence. If you're in the mood for a no holds barred, brutal environment, then grab some popcorn and enjoy. But just remember, in Mega City 1, it's I am the law, or fuck off. It's movie time, and today we are watching The Boondock Saints, a film that swaggers into the late 1990s like a bouncer at a club, ready to throw down and redefine vigilante justice while splattering blood all over the place. And trigger warning to anyone that doesn't like profanity. Let me start off by saying,
Fucking what the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking. How did you two fucking fucks? Fuck! Well, it certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
this film became something of a cult classic since its release in 1999, and the reason that every guy over 30 wants to get Veritas tattooed on his hand. This movie has more Catholic imagery than a Vatican gift shop. It's edgy, violent, and chaotic, and it's about as subtle as a brick through a stained glass window. So grab your stupid fucking rope and let's get into this. Fun fact, I'm in this movie.
You killed my.
You're what?
my.
You're. Huh? Tell me that cat's name! Go ahead! You're what? You're precious little.
Give me.
And actually, my name is Meowthy McConaughey. We kick things off in Boston with our Irish American twins, Connor and Murphy McGinnis, played by Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus. These guys are like a 2-for-1 deal on charm and mayhem. Connor is the brooding poet, while Murphy adds that laid back vibe. Together, they're like fine whiskey and a cigar, a pairing that just works. After attending Mass and hearing about the tragic fate of Kitty Genovese, this hits them like a ton of bricks, and they decide they're done waiting for someone else to save the day. They decide to take matters into their own hands after a chance encounter with some low-life criminals. And let me tell you, the film doesn't pull any punches when it comes to the bloodshed. And the pacing, meh, let's just say it's a bit uneven. There are moments that drag and others that fly by like a bullet. The film's structure feels almost haphazard, jumping between flashbacks and present action, kind of like a sugar rush. But hey, if you're here for the ride, you might not mind the occasional detour. So fast forward to St. Patrick's Day, where the twins are celebrating when the Russian mob decides to crash in their party like a bad hangover. And cue the brawl. You can't help but cheer for these guys when they hand these thugs their lunch. You really feel their chemistry, especially in the brawl scenes. They're like a well-oiled machine, if you were using cooking oil instead of Mobile One. They're dishing out punishment while quoting scripture with what can only be explained as having the Lord on their side. It's oddly poetic and just plain badass. Now, before we get too caught up in the action, let's address the elephant in the room, the film's message.
And I'm sure the word you were looking for was symbolism. What is the symbolism there?
The Boondock Saints presents itself as a deep exploration of moral injustice. The brothers become the self proclaimed holy avengers, claiming to get rid of the world's evil in a way that's, somewhat reminiscent of biblical zealotry. But does it really dive deep into these themes? Or is it just a lot of stylish violence wrapped up in a brooding monologue? I mean, it's glorious, but let's face it, this flick's all about glorifying street justice wrapped in a green bow. It's like if Batman and Lucky Charms had a baby.
You won't be taking me lucky cereal. Part of the nutritious breakfast.
Sweet, chaotic, and packed with just enough whimsy to make you question whether you're dreaming or about to be served a bowl of justice. So, after a little divine intervention, the twins decide that their holy mission is to get rid of the world's evil. I mean, come on. The film dances around the idea of morality like it's a prom, looking good but not really committing to anything meaningful. Then we're introduced to William Dafoe as Agent Paul Schmeckler.
There was a firefight!
This guy is a tornado of energy and eccentricity. He's like a lone wolf trying to navigate a pack of wild dogs. Defoe's flamboyant style and his ability to mix seriousness with humor makes him a scene stealer. You can practically see the gears turning in his head as he's wrestling with the moral implications of the twins' actions. There's a surprise cameo in this movie, and spoiler alert, it's Ron Jeremy. I can't tell if he's method acting or just was walking around on set and happened to be put in the movie. Either way, he nails the role. And let's not forget the funny man himself, Rocco, played by David Della Rocco, the lovable goofball caught up in this madness. He's like a clown at a funeral, adding some comic relief. Sometimes it feels a little bit out of place amid the chaos, but the subtlety of his humor is perfect. You can't help but chuckle at his misguided attempts to prove himself. He's probably the best representation of what would actually happen if anyone watching this tried to Batman their city.
Do you have on your wrists?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
It's all right, I know. Listen.
There are some great lines in this movie, but the one that I use all the time is after Rocco shoots me and I'm Kurt Cobained all over the wall. Rocco says,
Is it dead?
I'll use that anytime someone tragically dies on camera. Obviously dead. I'll just sprinkle it in there. I implore you to do the same. Next, we're introduced to legendary actor, comedian, and musician. Wait, hold on. Let me look this up. Yeah, Billy Connolly was actually a musician in the 70s.
And my wife to have a big fight, and then both of them bit me.
Well, in this movie, he plays El Duce. He's the mafia's fixer. You got a problem that involves giving someone lead poisoning quick, then this is your guy. The only problem is, he's in jail. And in an ironic turn of events, the same system that the twins are trying to fight is the same one that gets El Duce out of jail almost immediately. Conley brings a gravitas that is hard to match. He is bone-chillingly cold in every scene that he's in.
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution?
The grand finale hits in the courtroom, where our Angels of Boston decide to take hostages and deliver the "we're gonna clean up the city" speech in the most biblical way possible. It's bold, it's audacious, and let's be real, it's the perfect ending to a spectacular movie. They expect to walk away heroes after this. Let's let the people decide.
Every major city. These guys are playing God. I mean, this whole religious twist. Who the hell do they think they are? Hell yeah, I believe in capital punishment. If they let me, I'd pull the switch. Get them all! Kill them all!
So what's the final takeaway? The Boondock Saints is a wild, blood-soaked ride that revels in its own excess. Overall, it's a hell of a better movie than it should have been with the budget it was working with. The cast of the McCandless brothers and their motley crew bring a chaotic symphony to life, delivering a performance that sticks with you like a catchy tune. I haven't seen this movie in probably 10 years, and watching it again made me love it even more. If you haven't seen it, then watch it, and if you have watched it, then watch it again. And until next time,
I'll catch you on the flip side.
it's movie time, and holy guacamole with a side of chips did I find an unexpected movie. Today, it's Rebel Ridge, a 2024 thriller that serves up a heaping plate of justice, corruption, and some damn fine action. This film takes classic Western tropes and twists them into a tale of small town lawlessness that could have been scripted by someone that watched too many spaghetti westerns. Imagine Clint Eastwood's The Outlaw got a 21st century makeover, complete with corrupt cops instead of corrupt land barons. This movie starts out with Terry Richmond, who rolls into town with $36,000 of cash in hand, intending to post bail and buy a truck for a fresh start. What he doesn't expect is a run in with the town's finest, Officer Evan Morstan and Steve Land, who decide his money looks a little too good to be left alone. Instead of outlaws stealing gold, we got civil forfeiture happy cops and a hefty dose of town's unsavory dealings. The plot unfolds like a bad fever dream of bureaucratic red tape and police incompetence. Terry's attempts to navigate the cesspool of corruption are met with obstacles so thick you'd think the town had a full time job keeping its filth under wraps. The narrative plots along as Terry finds himself caught in a web of lies and brutality, with every officer that he encounters seamlessly more useless and more villainous than the last. Director and writer Jeremy Schulliner elegantly immerses you in a modern day drama that draws heavily from classic themes of corruption and personal retribution. But it's the small details in this film that elevate it from just another thriller to a finely tuned narrative masterpiece. Terry is the modern equivalent of a wandering gunslinger with little backstory. Terry crashes into the film with a cool, calm demeanor, but ends up letting his sense of justice drive the plot. His level headedness in the chaos of the battle is calming and chilling at the same time. There's a quote from a book, The Way of Kings. A man's emotions are what define him, and control is the hallmark of true strength. To lack feeling is to be dead, but to act on every feeling is to be a child. Think of Terry as a contemporary take on the characters like Gary Cooper's Will Kane in High Noon. Terry's got the grit and determination of a Western hero, but is up against much more than an insidious and entrenched foe. Speaking of foes, we have our big bad of the movie, Police Chief Sandy Byrne. The chief is the quintessential corrupt town leader who uses his position to enforce his brand of justice. He's the kind of figure who would fit right in with a classic Western, ruling a town with an iron fist with a complete disregard for fairness. We are also introduced to Summer McBride, initially a well meaning clerk. Summer quickly morphs into a reluctant ally, spearheading the investigation to bring down the House of Cards. She's not exactly a damsel in distress, but more like a hard-working soul who finds herself entangled in the drama of a corrupt town. Her role is akin to the town's moral compass, but when she's pushed down, she just digs harder for the truth. Cast delivers performances are nothing short of electrifying. Each character is meticulously crafted, their motivations laid bare with the finesse that makes them feel as real as the dirt and grime that surrounds them. As it turns out, John Boyega was supposed to play Terry Richmond, but Boyega's exit from the film was probably seen as a disaster in the early stages of the film. Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. Boyega's abrupt departure, whether due to creative differences, scheduling conflicts, or just a sheer lack of interest, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So halfway through the movie's production, out went Boyega, and in came Aaron Pierre, who manages to bring a fresh perspective to the project. Some might see swapping out one actor for another as just a matter of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But Pierre's performance demonstrates a robust command over the character's emotional and physical demands, which is no small feat given the turbulent production history. Pierre's Terry Richmond emerges as a character marked by quiet resilience and a steely determination that fits well within the morally complex world of Rebel Ridge. Unlike Boyega's potentially more dramatic take, Pierre offers a nuanced interpretation that emphasizes the character's inner conflict and physical toughness. His performance brings a new layer of subdued intensity to the role, effectively conveying the wariness and determination of a man fighting against a systemic corruption. Visually, Rebel Ridge is a feast for fans with no hold bar action. The cinematography captures the bleak and oppressive atmosphere of Shelby Springs perfectly. The film brings to mind the dusty, sun-soaked vistas of classic westerns, but swap them for rain-slick streets and darkened alleys. There are easily a dozen instances of small details that you just don't get in other action movies. The scene where they're driving the car at night near the courthouse and they tape the taillights. It's a brilliant detail that underscores the tension of their situation. It's a small but powerful choice that highlights their desperation and the lengths they'll go to avoid detection. The truck that Terry aims to buy isn't just another vehicle, it symbolizes his hope for a new beginning and a fresh start. As for the action sequences, they are sharp and intense, with a realistic edge that pulls you right into the thick of it. Pierre, who portrays a former MCMAP instructor, exhibits combat skills and physicality that aligns with his character's military background. The close quarter combat scenes are staged with a level of detail that emphasizes practicality over cinematic flair. For instance, when Terry takes over the police station, he subdues multiple officers. It is portrayed with the focus of tactical efficiency rather than flashy moves. The film's portrayal of civil forfeiture, a controversial practice where law enforcement can seize property suspected of being connected to criminal activity, adds a layer of authenticity. While the depiction is dramatized for narrative purposes, it captures the essence of how such legal processes can be exploited and manipulated. The film highlights the bureaucratic headache and the moral ambiguity surrounding these practices, offering a critique on the system's flaws. When it comes to firearms, Rebel Ridge makes the effort to present them with a degree of realism and safety, unlike some other films. Characters handle the weapon with a level of competence that suggests some degree of familiarity, particularly Terry Richmond's character, given his military background. The use of firearms in tense situations is depicted with an emphasis on practicality. Some other films I've seen, it's like they have 1,000 rounds in a Glock 17. The art of cinema can often involve a delicate dance between fact and fiction. Rebel Ridge is a film that invites exploration and rewards careful observation. The small details, which might initially seem minor, come together to create a richly textured and immersive experience. Each viewing reveals new facets of the film's world, character dynamics, and thematic depth, making Rebel Ridge a compelling and intriguing cinematic journey. Overall, this movie is a breath of fresh air in a dusty saloon, and I loved every moment of it. Rebel Ridge is a contemporary Western in all but the name, delivering a story of corruption and redemption wrapped in a modern, gritty package that thrives on attention to detail. It takes familiar tropes from the genre: corrupt authorities, a lone hero finding the system, and an overreaching sense of justice, and updates it for today's audience. Honestly, this was really hard to write because there are so many small details I wanted to emphasize, but I feel like it would be like giving you a Where's Waldo book with Waldo already circled. If you like movies that spoon feed you everything, you might not enjoy this movie as much as I did. For those craving complexity and nuance, this is a hidden gem. Until next time, later, nerds. It's movie time, and today we're watching Children of Men, the 2006 dystopian classic that serves up a cocktail of despair with a twist of hope, garnished with a slice of what the hell is going on. Set in the not so distant future where humanity is basically a bunch of sad pandas, unable to reproduce for almost 2 decades. Seriously, it's like nature threw in the towel and said, you know what? You're all grounded. Now, before you roll your eyes at yet another dark sci fi flick, hold on. This isn't just any dreary slog through an apocalypse. It's an expertly crafted symphony of chaos by Alfonso Cuarón. He directs this film like it's a masterclass on how to shoot despair, long takes that pull you into the heart of the action. It's like being trapped in a bad dream, but the cinematography is so good you're almost grateful to be there. Enter the protagonist, Theo, played by Clive Owen, who looks like he's been living on a diet of instant noodles and regret. This guy's had a rough go at it. He's a former activist turned bureaucrat trying to navigate the world even though the sun seems to be giving up, peeking through the clouds like, nah, I'm good, thanks. You can almost hear him thinking, I used to fight for change. Now I can't even change a light bulb without a government form. And let's talk about the action. Curon's long takes are like a roller coaster ride through a war zone, but with very few safety measures. Take that incredible car chase scene. It's like they threw a bunch of actors in a car and said, good luck, don't die. You're left gripping your seat thinking, I didn't sign up for this much anxiety. The world building here is intense. Britain is like a police state where the government seems to be taking notes from 1984 while also auditioning for the role of most desperate place on earth. It's a place where immigrants are treated like unwanted gifts at a holiday party, and the government's motto seems to be, let's make everything worse. No more posters of cute cats urging you to hang in there. Now it's just a sign saying, welcome to the end of the line. Please keep your expectations low. And how could we forget the supporting cast? Julianne Moore as Julian. She is so committed to the role you'd think she's auditioning for a reality TV show titled Survivor Dystopia Edition. She brings her A game, adding a level of complexity to the character who is basically trying to save humanity while dealing with her ex. And Michael Caine? He's a battle scarred philosopher, watching the world unravel with a blend of amusement and resignation, like he's waiting for the punchline to finally land. But here's the kicker: the film isn't just about survival, it's about the messy, complicated nature of hope. Theo is dragged into the plot to protect the first pregnant woman in years. Think of it as the world's most high stake baby shower, but instead of cake, everyone's packing heat. It's like every parent's worst nightmare. Congratulations, it's a miracle. Now let's get you out of here before it turns into a hostage situation. In the end, Children of Men isn't just a dystopian thriller. It's a gut punching exploration of what it means to cling to hope in a world that's basically turned into a giant dumpster fire. It challenges you to find that flicker of light in a dark room, kind of like finding your phone at 3 a.m. while avoiding stepping on Legos. Painful, but ultimately rewarding. So here's to the wild journey of life, the slivers of hope amidst the chaos, and Clive Owen's stellar portrayal that reminds us we could all use a little downtime. Until next time, later, nerd. It's movie time, and today we're watching 2014's indie thriller that asks the age-old question. How well do you think you would do as an action hero? Today's movie is Blue Ruin. Now, before we dive in, let's get one thing straight. I'm not here to tell you this is some hidden cinematic masterpiece that's going to change your life. Nah, what we've got here is a gritty, low-budget revenge flick that's all about the guy who's way out of his depth and finding just how messy vengeance really is. So grab your popcorn, kick back, and let's talk about this unapologetically average action hero in Blue Ruin. Meet Dwight. He's not your typical revenge movie protagonist. He's not some ex-soldier with a mysterious past, and he has no dark tragic backstory that involves a lot of punching and shooting. Dwight looks like the guy who hasn't seen a razor in 6 months, and it probably takes him 2 tries to put on a t-shirt. This guy looks like he's a paper cut away from having a full mental breakdown.
I want breakfast.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm really sorry too.
And it's obvious he doesn't exactly have a plan for his life, let alone vengeance. Now, we all like to think that if we were in a movie like John Wick, we'd handle ourselves with total badassness, right? Maybe take down a couple goons, handle a fight or two, and look cool doing it. But the reality is, the movie would be over in seconds if you had to drive a manual car. Because let's face it, only 18% of the US population knows how to drive stick. Blue Ruin isn't about your typical action hero fantasy. It's about an average guy who's way out of his element, trying to do something he's not prepared for, and it shows. We kick things off with Dwight finding out that the person who killed his family is set to be released, and that doesn't sit well with our protagonist. So he gathers his supplies and sets off. Like how most revenge stories start, he realizes he needs a gun.
I'm going to need a gun.
Dwight tactically acquires a gun, but he runs into the first of many hiccups. The previous owner was a responsible gun enthusiast, and he kept his Second Amendment rights locked up. So Dwight grabs a crowbar and starts wailing on the trigger lock like it's a piñata, and voila, he's good to go, right? Wrong. It turns out Dwight isn't exactly the lockpicking lawyer, and he just ends up breaking the gun. So on to plan B. Dwight decides to show up to the bar where the killer is, looking like he's just here to make some bad decisions. He tries to stab the bad guy with a knife, and despite being the wish list Crocodile Dundee, he lands a fatal blow. Dwight's knife skills are, well, let's just say he's about as competent with a knife as a Kardashian cutting a zucchini.
Be careful, because I nicked myself the other day.
I don't know, I'm kind of scared.
There you go.
After floundering the escape, it's on to Plan B 2.0. Dwight gets the idea to clean himself up, but ends up looking like a cuck asking the front desk for an extra chair for his motel room. He meets up with his sister and catches up on the last 10 years. And oh yeah, he killed the person who killed their parents, and they're most likely on their way to her house now. So after Dwight makes sure his sister and kids are safe, he takes a seat and waits for the inevitable retaliation. Eventually they arrive to the house, but that's when reality hits. He brought a pitchfork to a gunfight.
You can actually use this to your advantage when it comes to striking around and over, right? So I'd come over, strike like this.
So that's when Plan C kicks in. Run the hell away. But not before Dwight manages to rack up a vehicular manslaughter charge and getting shot in the leg with an arrow. So after he puts the guy he just ran over in the trunk, he gets stitched up, goes to a concert, and meets up with an old high school buddy. Dwight pulls the ultimate bro card and asks for an unregistered gun and a thing of water. Bro can't say no to the bro code and helps his friend out.
Bro code can trace its lineage all the way back to Brosis himself.
That's when Dwight confronts the man in the trunk and they have a heart-to-heart. Some truth bombs are dropped, and Dwight finds out that it was actually the man in the trunk's father that killed Dwight's dad. Shocked by this revelation, a scuffle breaks out. That's when the guy in the trunk gets the gun.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
But then, out of nowhere, Fat Rambo swoops in to save the plot. Honestly, he's the most tactically sound character in this movie.
I know this is personal,
That's how you'll fail. No speeches, no talking. You point the gun. You shoot the gun.
This guy's got more of a plan than Dwight has for his entire life combined. It's like Dwight is trying to play chess, and his friends already flipped the table and started shooting.
Judge.
So after everything is foobarred, it's on to plan D. Surprise the bad guy's family at their house, and end it all in one fell swoop. But of course, nobody's home.
Where the fuck is everyone?
After some snooping around, he finds some guns and the grave of the actual killer of his family. So naturally, he pisses on the grave and sets up some Home Alone style booby traps.
I'm setting booby traps. Booby traps. That's what I said, Sam. Setting booby traps in case of anybody's following us. Like if we toddlers, so we can hear them coming.
Without giving too much away, let's just say,
There was a firefight!
yeah, it's messy, but it's realistic to how close quarter gunfights would go. This movie doesn't give you the satisfying revenge fantasy you're hoping for. Instead, it gives you a man who's tangled in the mess he created, and by the end, you're left with nothing but questions. Was it worth it? What's the cost of all this violence and chaos? Blue Ruin makes sure you feel that. So in the end, Blue Ruin does a great job with pacing and balancing a raw, gritty realism of Dwight's descent into vengeance. It's not a slick, action-packed revenge fantasy. It's ugly, uncomfortable, and deeply human. This isn't about triumph or glory. It's about the cost of revenge and the consequences of thinking you can solve everything with violence.
Look, violence is never the answer.
It's the solution.
As they say, an eye for an eye and the whole world would be blind. And after everything that Dwight's gone through, I can't help but feel that maybe that was the point of this movie. Well, until next time, later nerds.